This is one of the most frequent questions people contact me about. There's as many ways to organize a book of shadows as there are practicing witches. I am not kidding. And that's because your book of shadows, it's your own personal take on the spiritual work that you do. It's your own views on your personal practice, your relationship with deity, the types of materials you resonate with the best, and whether your candle work is successful or not. That's what the grimoire is for. The grimoire is basically, it's your witchy recipe book, while the Book of Shadows is your own personal take on how it's all going and how you feel about it. And that's what confuses people. Basically grimoires are a lot easier to organize than a Book of Shadows, because you're going to have a section on the herbs and essential oils you use, what they're used for, candle colors and their correspondences, and so on and so on. It's pretty much clear cut. Book of Shadows, it can be all over the place, and that's what confuses people. It's equivalent to people who want to get into journaling. How do I start a journal? I get asked that a lot too, because I'm also a professional artist. I'm also an avid daily journaler. And so, I also help people out in how to start their journals. And I get asked these type of questions in email and over on Facebook and Instagram. And now I'm over on Substack. And now a couple of people over there ask me, how do I start a Book of Shadows? It's a question that's haunted me for like 28 years. I'm not kidding. So in this video, we're going to go over that. So without further ado, this is how you organize a Book of Shadows. Now we're going to be looking at my tabletop. Hello and welcome. Today, I'm going to show you a very simple method for organizing your Book of Shadows. To clarify the difference between a Book of Shadows and a grimoire, your grimoire is basically your witchy recipe book. It covers the specific ingredients of what you use for your spell work, candle colors, herbs, oils, deities you call upon, days of the week, moon phases, everything that goes into your candle work, okay? The Book of Shadows is your witchy journal. This is the book in which a witch keeps their thoughts, their feelings, their intentions regarding what it is to be a witch, regarding their magical practice, working with any plant and animal allies, working with their spirit guides, their angels, and with aspects of deity. It's basically where you pour out your soul. That's the Book of Shadows. That's what I'm going to talk about today. I will be filming a separate series on the grimoire, so you'll want to subscribe and stay tuned for that one. This will be a multi-part series. I'm not sure how many parts there will be. I'm going to try to keep every video to about 15 minutes so it doesn't become too overwhelming. Now for this one, this is part 2 or 3 in my series. I'll flash across the screen what part it is. I will also put the other videos in this series in cards up in the upper right-hand corner here in the video, and I will link to them below in the description as well. And this series will have its own playlist at my channel. All you will need for today's organizational session is 3 to 4 sheets of scratch paper, any index cards you may have. If you don't have 3x5 or 4x6, something like that, index cards, don't worry about it. Just get a couple more extra sheets of scratch paper and we'll be cutting those up. I'll show you a real easy, quick way to do that. And we're going to be figuring out how to organize the beginning of our Book of Shadows. If you do not have index cards, you just take a piece of paper and you cut it down. Index cards are typically 3x5. These will be, oh, they might be 3x5. I don't have a, Yeah, they'll end up being a little bit larger than 3x5 or something like that. But anyway, you take your sheet of paper, fold it in half once, fold it in half again, and you're going to be cutting along each of the folds. And that will create your index cards. I go by the single fold first. One of these folds will be on a side all by itself. I just stick my scissors in there. You do not have to be scientifically accurate when you do this. There's one snip, then the other two folds, which you'll have to snip separately. And again, you do not have to be perfect. This is not going to go into your book of shadows. This is scrap paper to help you organize the topics you wish to have covered in your book of shadows. And then you take your sheets and you end up with 4 per sheet of paper. So do that until you have like, to be on the safe side, I'd say 12. What you're going to do on your first sheet of paper, you are going to just basically list topics you want covered in your book of shadows. Now remember, what are we talking about in our book of shadows? We're covering your thoughts, your feelings, your intentions regarding your own magical practice. So what I did with this sheet of paper is to show you, initially it's going to look really wonky, but we're going to fix that. So what I did, when I do a book of shadows or a grimoire, either one, the beginning of the book is always the same, because this is information that would always be used. And I always create my book of shadows, not so much my book of shadows, but definitely my grimoire, with the intention of passing it down to my daughter. So she's 27 now, and she doesn't really practice. She believes, but she doesn't do very much in terms of witchy stuff. But I figure as she gets older, she may find my books to be of value. So I create with her in mind. But what I do in every book of shadows and every grimoire are several things. They're always the same. They don't change pretty much. I start off with a book of blessing and a dedication. So I have this here. And the way I list things, my lists always go down the left-hand side. I'll go back up to the right, and this will be information that follows the information I list on the left. But I'll go ahead and clarify that when I do my my index cards for you, so you can see how it's done, or at least how I do it. Then I will include a dedication. This is a dedication to deity. So this is going to be the aspect of deity with whom you work. If you wish to put a dedication in your book of shadows, I do strongly urge you to do that, because it helps to solidify your relationship with that aspect of the divine with whom you are working. Personally, for myself, I am a Christian witch. My religious background is in Catholicism, and Catholics are taught from day one to venerate Mother Mary as the mother of God, as the mother of Jesus Christ. And so we already have that propensity for goddess worship anyway. So it's a very short hop, skip, and a jump, to get into witchcraft. A lot of Catholics also practice folk magic. They may not call it that. They may say, my grandma did this, this, and the other, or lit St. Jude for this type of problem, the St. Jude candle. Use St. Michael candles for this type of problem. And we continue those family traditions, those Catholic family traditions, which are really folk magic. And I myself come from an ethnic background of being Mexican. My dad was born and raised in Michoacan, Mexico. He came up to the States when he was 20. Met my mom, they got married, they had me, the rest is history. But he brought many of those practices with him. And then when my aunts moved up here and my other uncles, so I come from a background of, yes, I was raised Catholic, I was raised Christian, but I've got this very strong background of folk magic. My great-grandmother on my dad's side was a curandera, which is a Mexican healer and white witch. She was also psychic. She read playing cards. She could see auras, read the palm, the whole nine. Okay, so I'm also hereditary. You do not have to be a hereditary witch in order to practice witchcraft, okay? So get that fear and doubt right out of your brain. Don't need it. I've had students in my witchcraft classes who've had no magical inklings or relatives whatsoever that they knew of, and they've grown into very well-rounded and quite amazing witches themselves. Now, so you have your book blessing, and then you have the dedication to deity. Now, you could put in your oath as a witch. Your oath as a witch. This is your creed, okay? This is what you believe is the reason that you're a witch. What are your magical boundaries? What lines do you stay within? What line will you not cross? Like I myself, I never do any hexes, curses, anything baneful, just because there's positive ways to deal with all of that crap. And that's what I use. So a part of my oath would be, you know, I would never cast anything harmful or baneful toward anyone or anything. You know, that's always a part of my credo. And then you can follow that up with a protective incantation. An incantation is just a verse, just a paragraph of words. You're calling on your aspect of deity with whom you work, and you are asking them not only to protect your book, because, you know, your book is precious. Your book's going to contain your own thoughts and feelings. Who knows how big it may get over the years. You can use whatever type of journal you want, whatever size. I'll have one linked below of the one that I use. And, you know, you can use any type of book. You can even use like a composition notebook from the dollar store. It doesn't matter. Just as long as it's something to get your thoughts and feelings in, and we're going to work on ways to make it uniquely your own. So now we've talked about the book blessing, the dedication, your oath, if you want to include that, protection incantation, and then you can also include a protective spell, meaning the directions on how to perform that protective spell, or maybe just a list of ingredients. I myself have a set method for how I perform every spell I do. So I will just list the ingredients, because basically ingredients are your herbs, your oils, your candle color. Sometimes that includes size or shape of candle. Those will, you know, may vary depending on the intention of the working. So you can do that. It's optional. You know, all this is optional. And like I always tell my students, take what resonates with you and leave the rest behind. Just because it works really well for one person does not mean it will work well for you. Just because one person thinks this one way of doing something is the cat's pajamas does not mean you will agree with that assessment. Always take what works, leave the rest. Now, in the beginning, and I'm going to show you how to organize this further in a second, other things I always include, and it's basically out of habit. I know this stuff by route now, but I include it by habit. I'll put in a depiction of the Wheel of the Year. You can get those offline, print it offline. You can create your own, whatever you wish to do. And then the Wheel of the Year will be on the left-hand page, and a listing of the Sabbats, the seasonal Sabbats, and their magical correspondences will be on the right-hand page. So this is always a 2-page spread for me. Next up, I'll have the full moons. I mean, not the full moons, the moon phases, and the type of magic that is best to do during each lunar phase. There are 8 phases, 8 types of magic you can do divided up by lunar phase. And then I will also include my basic rituals for the new and the full moon, because they don't vary, only the intention varies. And then I forgot to include under lunar names and correspondences of each full moon. So see, I just wrote it down here and then drew an arrow up here. And that's what you're going to do. You're going to be writing stuff down, and you're going to be drawing arrows of where you want to move it. Then on another a separate sheet of paper, you can write your list and get it in the correct order, fine tune it. Then once you've got it as fine tuned as you can, that'll be when we use the index cards, because we're going to be dividing these main topics into smaller ones to further organize the information that's going into your Book of Shadows. And then I would also include the days of the week and their magical correspondences, color correspondences. What kind of magic is red good for? What kind of magic is black good for? And on down the list. And then I will include some important magical symbols to me. These are symbols that I use in pretty much all of my workings, okay? So you want to not list just every single symbol from someone's book. You only list those that are important to you, ones with which you resonate, ones that you've tried before, you know they work. Those are the ones you include. So I just listed 2 examples here, the pentacle and the pentagram. There's many more, many more. And you can even have a section on dream symbols if you like, even though your Book of Shadows itself is not a dream journal. Some witches do keep a record of their dreams, like in the back of their Book of Shadows. Personally, I don't do that. I have a separate journal for my dreams. So I keep all my dream information there. Just like I do not list anything about tarot in my Book of Shadows, because I keep separate tarot journals. I have a journal for my daily and weekly tarot pulls, my card pulls, and then I have another tarot journal that's a study journal. So again, that's something you may want to take up, and it'll be something I will discuss here at my channel at a later date. So this is your basic organization. So then you go to your next piece of paper and you decide what from your list are you definitely going to keep, you know, and again, I always include the book blessing. So you'd write that down. And then I would have the dedication after that. Some may want to put the dedication before. That's fine. It's personal preference. This is just the order in which I do it. That does not mean it is the correct order. It's just the order for me. And then I would have my oath or my credo. And then I will include a protection incantation. I don't include a spell for this at this point in my Book of Shadows, just because that's for my grimoire. All of my spell work goes into my grimoire, because your grimoire is your witchy cookbook, your recipe book, okay? So that stuff doesn't really have a space in your Book of Shadows. A lot of witches combine them, mainly because they don't understand the difference between those 2 types of books. So that's why you'll watch these YouTube channels, and the title may be Flip Through of My Grimoire. And they're going through it, but then they are showing you pages of, you know, what they thought about the spell or how it worked out or something. What you think about the spell, how it worked, that goes into your Book of Shadows. Your grimoire is just the recipes. Now, so I have my book blessing dedication, my oath, my protection incantation. And then I go over here to the other side and I have Wheel of the Year. And I would always put that before lunar phases, because the Wheel of the Year covers the whole year. And I will put that on the left-hand page. And I'm just noting that here for your benefit, not for mine. And then on the other, the Sabbats, list correspondences, and that goes on the right-hand page. Okay, then I will go into the lunar information. So I'll have lunar phases here. You can call it moon phases. I vary. Sometimes I'll call it lunar. Sometimes I'll call it moon. It depends on the mood I'm in when I'm designing that page, basically. And then underneath that, and this is where the index cards come in handy. The topic will be your new and full moon rituals, because those will vary. Underneath that, you'll have full moons, names, and correspondences. Now, you may kind of recognize this is kind of going in outline format. That's exactly what we're doing here. We're writing in an outline. We go into days of the week. And their correspondences. And then we do colors. And correspondences. Now, if you work with candles of various shapes, you may want to include shapes, so candle shapes. And their correspondences, again, that's up to you. Depends on your practice. I myself don't include that because I don't really vary the shape of my candles. Just the size, and the size will correspond with the size of the intention. You know, small issues, you can handle it with a chime candle, a tea light. Larger issues, take a votive, maybe a pillar candle that'll burn 3 days. Your major mega issues for me would require a glass encased saint's candle that burns for a week, you know, but I don't need to list that here. So that's basically the beginning of your Book of Shadows. Okay, so this information should be on the first few pages. Now, if you want to break it down further, that's where we get the index cards. Here, I'll use these because a lot of you may not have index cards handy when you watch this video. You can write them either in landscape format or portrait. I tend to do landscape just because I will sometimes put additional notes off to the side here. Pretty much how I did on the very first page. You know, the left-hand side will list what I'm putting in order. The right-hand side will be additional ideas and stuff I need to fit into this list on the left. Then over here, I organized it better. Now, on the smaller sheets of paper, this is where we break down these topics, those of which need to be broken down further. And then you will be referring to this master list and your smaller sheets of paper or your index cards when you actually start working in your Book of Shadows on the actual pages. Before we continue working with our index cards, I wanted to show you my own Book of Shadows. This is a new one. I recently purchased it off of Amazon. I will include the link in the video description below. Just full disclosure, all Amazon links at my channel are affiliate links, and I make a commission anywhere from 1 to 4.5% at no extra cost to you. And I would appreciate your support on my channel, but you're under no obligation to use my links. This is what you call a tome. I forgot how many pages are actually in this. I did pull out a few of the signatures. What a signature is just a section of pages. So you see all these curves. Each one of these is a signature. So currently, my Book of Shadows has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 signatures in it. I believe it came with 20. I want to say I pulled 4 to 5 signatures out of here just to give it more room, because I'm going to be gluing stuff in here. I may be adding little watercolor paintings I do, because I saved the paper that I pulled out of here, because this comes with super, super nice paper. This paper can take pretty much anything. It's really thick. It can take watercolor. And I do recommend whatever journal or notebook, I'm going to move my candle here. I do not wish to catch my Book of Shadows on fire. Thank you. I do recommend you always do a test page in the back. On the last couple of sheets, this is where I will test out the watercolors. I am a professional watercolor artist, so it's important to me I'm able to use watercolor on the paper of any notebook or journal that I use. I'll also test out my pens. Basically, I write the name of the pen and the ink that's in the pen, because some pens will write great on this paper, some write very scratchy. And by pens, I mean fountain pens. I use fountain pens. I am hopelessly addicted to fountain pens. And then I'll write down the type of ink, because some inks might bleed through a page, some others won't. So you see there's one here that's a bleeder. You know, it's the Sharpie. No, it's not the Sharpie says no bleed. What? Seriously? Then what's this one? Now I'm curious. No, that is the Sharpie. I must have been drunk that day. I don't know. Anyway, no, I don't even drink. But you do this, you write your notes as to how your artistic medium has behaved on the paper. That way you know for your pages in between. Now, the main reason I removed some of the signatures, let me see if I can find a spot that I removed one from, is because I want to make more room for when I glue stuff in here. And now I can't find where I removed any. What? Did they grow back? Oops. Now, I think one was here. And there was another one here. And then I think toward the front, here, one got removed here, you know, wherever there's a slightly wider gap. It's important to do that because and here, another one here. You need that room. If you're going to be gluing, dog hair. If you're going to be gluing in your Book of Shadows, which you most likely will, it's going to make it, here's another one I removed. I removed 5. So it looks like this had, this came with 20 signatures. Whole lot of paper. I'll put across the screen how many pages this notebook comes with. It's a lot. It's in the hundreds, okay? It's like, I can't remember if it's 400, but I will count them and let you know. You need to remove the signatures because you're going to be gluing stuff in, and as you glue stuff in, all these stickers and stuff, you know, they have height to them. This would not go. This is for my Hobonichi cousin, my daily everyday carry notebook, journal, planner. But you keep gluing, you know, sticking these in page to page to page. Eventually, it's going to thicken. And it's going to be increasingly difficult to close your Book of Shadows. That's why it's important to remove a few signatures. And when you remove them, you just do so very carefully. You go to the center of the signature, and it's one by one. Each of these pages, when you fold it open, you find the center of the signature you wish to remove. Each of these pages is a single sheet of paper. Okay? There's just a fold here. There's no break. You carefully grab it from either the top or the bottom, whichever. You hold the cording down that has sewn that signature into your notebook and carefully pull up. And from the bottom. Then you remove that one sheet and keep going. You may just want to remove a couple of sheets from every signature. That's another option. You don't have to remove an entire signature. But when you get to that last sheet of the signature, what you're going to see inside your book is going to be possibly either just a blank area, or you might see some exposed cording. Do not cut that cording. Don't ever go in and say, oh, I'm going to remove this easy. Snip, snip, and pull them all out. No, this cording is sewn with all the other cording. You cut one, your entire book is going to fall apart. So don't cut any of those internal cords, okay? You got to keep them intact, you know. Unlike in cord cutting magic, these cords have to stay intact. So that's what you do. This is mine, my new one. I'm going to be doing this right along with you all. And as I do the tutorials here on my channel, I'll show you how I did this. This I filmed and my camera zapped the video. because it was out of memory or something. I was so ticked. So I'll just do another one on one of the sheets of paper that I pulled out of here so you can see how I did this. But that's the cover. That's all I've done because, like I said, I'm going to be doing this right along with you. So, and I will be filming those so you'll be able to see my process and everything. So this is going to be my Book of Shadows, and I have another one set aside for my new grimoire. I'm not quite ready to move into it yet, but I will probably toward the end of the year, I'm guessing. Now, get out your index cards or your little slips of paper. We're going to further break down every one of these topics. And again, decide if you're a landscape writer or a portrait writer. However you want to do it. Like I said, I always do mine in landscape because I always tend to write down the main list here. Everything I forget to include in that list, I write it on the right-hand side and draw arrows. So you want your book blessing. So that should be listed on the first page. So you write that across the top. You can underline it. Underneath, what is your book blessing? Are you going to include deity in this? I recommend that you do. I always do. I ask my aspect of deity that I work with to bless my Book of Shadows, and that would be Jesus Christ and Mother Mary. So I will call on them. For the blessing. Now, you may want to further include the elements, your guardian angel, if you work with angels, the 4 archangels, so we're talking Michael, Raphael, Uriel, and Gabriel. Oh, I misspelled that, didn't I? Angels. It's because I'm trying to talk and write simultaneously. It never works for me. You know, so these are all other ideas of energies you can ask to bless your book. And you can combine them all and ask each one of them to bless your book if you like. Personal preference, it's up to you. But that would be pretty much the book blessing. And then once you decide who you're going to call on for that blessing, you can start to word your blessing down here. So then this would be the actual blessing. So I would write that here, colon, underline, and I would write it out completely before I transcribe it into my Book of Shadows. That way I know it's written out exactly the way I want. It's worded exactly how I wish it to be worded. So I don't have to worry about making any errors when I copy it into my Book of Shadows. Okay, so that's the book blessing. Then comes the dedication. And again, that's real simple, and you can even use the same sheet of paper depending on how long your blessing is. And here you just list who your book is dedicated to. For me, it would be the aspect of deity I'm working with. So again, Jesus Christ and Mother Mary. And I will probably, you know, I also include St. Michael in that just because I work with him so much on behalf of my clients. And I also have been channeling him since 1996. So I will include Michael in that as well. And typically that's all I include. But again, you know, strictly individual, and you would just list them. And, you know, you might want to say a few words to them through the dedication if you wish. Write them out. Again, that's completely up to you. Then we go on to the next index card or slip of paper. You can also flip this over. So I also recommend numbering them in the upper left or right-hand corner. If you are going to flip them over to use the other side, you know, put your arrow in the lower right-hand corner, then number the back page, number 2. I'm not going to do that because this ink bleeds through typing paper, but, you know, it conserves your paper. Okay, so we've done, you go back to your master list here. You check off book blessing and the dedication. Now it's time for your oath if you wish to include one. I always do, just because it reminds me of what my own magical boundaries are, and that's what it basically is. It's your own magical boundaries. What you're willing to do, what you would never do. That type of thing would go here. You know, and again, it could be as short or as long as you like, and then you would write it out here, first draft, second draft, maybe third draft, before you put it in your actual book of shadows to keep forever, or at least for as long as you're using that particular notebook. Because once you move into a new one, these things will get revised over the years as you grow in your practice as a witch, okay? Your aspects of deity that you work with may change over the years as well. That's happened to me. Again, it's normal. It's all part of your growth as a witch. And then it's interesting to look back at your older Book of Shadows and your grimoires and see how you've grown over the years and over the decades. Then, so now we have the book blessing, dedication, and the oath. Now would be the protection, incantation. So I would write that across the top of the page. And I would just say protection because I know it's going to be a type of a prayer or something. And whatever prayer I use, I always use the prayer to St. Michael the Archangel. Always, always, always. That prayer is part of the Catholic rite of exorcism. The other prayer that's part of the Catholic rite of exorcism is the Hail Mary. I will always include that as well. They're extremely powerful for protection and for banishing. So, and I would write them out. And sometimes what I do, you know, especially on a large page like my new Book of Shadows will have, I'll do one prayer down the left-hand side of the sheet, the other prayer down on the right. Or if I want to be fancy, I might want to add some watercolor, stickers, pictures from magazines, whatever. I'll have, because Mary's the mother of God, the mother of Christ, she comes first. So she'd be on the left-hand side. Michael would be on the right. And the neat correspondence of that is when you organize your altar, the left side of the altar is the goddess side. Right side of the altar is the God side. So that would kind of mimic your altar organization within your Book of Shadows. And that's also something I always tend to try to keep in mind when I'm organizing my pages and deciding what's going to go on which page. I try to think, is this information more female or more male? And then that may tip the scales as to which side, which page in my Book of Shadows I write it. So that would be my protection. And then this now is going to be a 2-page spread for the Wheel of the Year. So what I do, if I want to visualize what a spread will look like, this will represent my Book of Shadows open. So I'll draw a line down the center. This is now the left-hand page. That's the right-hand page. And then I'll decide, okay, for the Wheel of the Year, it'll go here. That rhymes. And your Wheel of the Year is going to be a great big circle divided equally into eighths. We have 8 Sabbats in a year. Each of these pieces of pie is 1 Sabbat. And typically witches put Yule here, which corresponds with winter solstice, Christmas time. And then you go to the next Sabbat, which is Imbolc in February, Ostara in March, and on around the wheel till we end at Samhain here, which some people mispronounce as Samhain. It's not Samhain, it's Samhain. Okay, then what you want to do, depending on how large your circle is, you may want to list the Sabbats and their correspondences here or do it on another page. I like to include some artwork on this page and make it look pretty. I may put stickers down, like I said, you know, pictures I tear out from magazines. Oh, another thing, keep your old witchy calendars, you know, like those Llewellyn date books and the Llewellyn 12-month calendars and calendars by other companies. They are great images for your Book of Shadows and your grimoire. Save those. I've got Llewellyn date books that go back to 2012 when I started buying those things. And I use that, you know, because after the year's over, you don't need it anymore. And they also have little spells in there too. And sometimes I'll cut out the whole spell and glue it into my grimoire, you know, my recipe book, put it in there. You know, if it worked for me and I want to keep that spell, I want to have a record of it, cut it out, glue it right down. That's why it's important in your grimoire and your Book of Shadows to to remove a few pages or sometimes an entire signature to make room for all the stuff you're going to be gluing into your book. So you could list your Sabbats down here, or you could put them over here. So I tend to list the Sabbats on the other page, just because, again, I'm an artsy witch, so I like to include pretty stuff. And again, you're going to have 8 going down the page. The name, approximate dates, because they do sometimes change year to year. And correspondences. I'm just scribbling here, but you get the idea. And do that for each one down the list. Now we go back to our main master list here. So we've done now the protection, the wheel of the year, the Sabbats. Then you have your lunar moon phases, you know, all the moon stuff, days of the week and all that. So again, I've run out of little fake index cards. So I will just create some more. Again, you just fold your sheet into quarters. Fold it once the long way, another time the short way. Cut the long way first. And then you cut your 2 short ways. And this will give you 4 more little sheets. Okay. And then we do moon phases. Those are always the same. So I don't create a separate index card for moon phases. I know where it's going to go and what they are. But you know, you may want to across the top, call them either moon or lunar phases, like here. And then you list each phase. You can draw a picture of the phase, you know, just your basic moon, you know, and the proper lunation phase, its name, what type of magic is performed during that phase, list it. Now this would be pretty much on the left-hand side of my grimoire, as Book of Shadows. You see, even I do it. Even I confuse the terms, even still after, you know, 40 years. So I will include the phases on the left-hand side of my Book of Shadows. On the right-hand side, I will typically list out the names of the full moons. So I'll have full moons here. Every full moon for every month has a name, and it has cultural associations. The most popularly known and written about come from the Celtic calendar of the British Isles and the Native Americans. I will list the names from both of those cultures for each full moon, because I use the names from both of those cultures interchangeably. So again, that's up to you. And then again, you would write the month name, January, February, on through December. Next to that, the name of the full moon, and then correspondences. Because different full moons resonate better with different types of magic. And that's something you should know as a witch. And on down the list. And you can get this from any good witchcraft reference book out there. Or you can even Google the information online. You can find it online. So there's that for your moons and full moon names and lunar phases. And then the days of the week would follow, and their magical correspondences, colors of candles, and if you use different shapes of candles, that information. That is your basic beginner organization for the start of your Book of Shadows. Next video will be on how to design your cover page. So be sure, as you're working in your Book of Shadows, once you start this, leave your cover page blank. And I will come on here in my next Book of Shadows video and show you how you can decorate it and have some fun with it, okay? So I thank you all for watching this. If you found this video useful, please give the video a like. And if you're not already subscribed to my channel, please consider subscribing. That means so much to me, and it helps my channel. The YouTube algorithm then knows that people are interested in my video and will push my video out to new eyes. I would so much appreciate your help. And until next time, I am 𝗫𝗫𝗃𝗃, wishing you a very blessed day ahead.